I think we did see international buying coming through, and the number one trade on the market today was Commonwealth Bank. Today was the last day to buy the shares ahead of the stock going ex-dividend tomorrow. So if you buy Commonwealth Bank tomorrow, you won't be getting the upcoming dividend for CBA. I guess looking at international investors, one way you can have a look at whether or not they're buying into the market is movement in the Aussie dollar. And usually you don't see a huge correlation with CBA and the Aussie dollar, but today there was an amazing one. So if I can bring up CBA's share price and the Aussie dollar is just in blue and the Commonwealth Bank is in black. You can see they very much move together. If I change that graph, let's say to a 30-day graph, you'll see that there's no huge correlation there. And this is once again the 1 day, but this is the 30-day chart. So you can see that there won't be a huge correlation when that blue line eventually comes up. So you can see they don't always move together, but today was all about Commonwealth Bank. $270 million worth of shares traded. That's ahead of its competitors. ANZ, NAB seeing more around the $100 million mark. So it was really big there. Of course, we were also watching results coming through. Bendigo and Adelaide not having a good day after its results. G8 Education was another one that saw selling, but Horizon holding up fairly well. And there were also stocks doing extremely well, hitting new highs. Corporate travel is one we talk about time and time again. Today, once again, a new record high. Domino's Pizza, it's continued to do well after its result. NIB Holdings is the other one, BT Investments, and another one is Ridley Corporation, a smaller corporation which sells livestock feed. We know that cattle prices have been going through the roof, and of course the drought over here in Australia, especially in Queensland. So that's another stock that's been doing well. But the rest of the week, I'm afraid it's going to be pretty quiet. We have the President's Day holiday in the US tonight. The Lunar New Year this week. China will be on holidays from Wednesday all the way up to next Tuesday, so it's going to be quiet around the region. The only real highlight on our market is the RBA minutes coming out.
Julia, just on CBA, I mean, do you expect to see the price action continue? Does it in the near term become our first $100 stock?
I guess it's either CBA or CSL, so the Cs seem to be doing pretty well on the market. If you have a look at these yield stocks, I guess the popularity of the yield stocks is because of low cash rates, also pension funds around the globe on the hunt for income as well. And in fact, if you have a look at the yield trade, there's not so much concern around growth. It's all about the income coming through, and Commonwealth Bank has shown some good growth. If you have a look at some of the key themes that have emerged throughout this earnings season, I think number one is if you're in a domestic focused business, you want to be exposed to the residential housing market, especially in New South Wales, and Commonwealth Bank is one of those stocks. The other stocks that have been doing well out of this themes are the likes of AV-Jennings, Nick Scali, Mirvac. So there's been a number of companies that have performed well. If you're not exposed to that residential housing space and you're focused domestically, it's a pretty hard slog. What you want to be doing is have a business overseas and be exposed to that falling Aussie dollar, and we've seen a number of companies doing well out of that. But all up, Commonwealth Bank, usually after its trades ex-dividend, there is a bit of softness in terms of the shares, but the underlying business still does remain strong.
That likely volatility to increase through this year?
I think we've seen the volatility and it's likely to continue, and that's on the upside as well as the downside. If we have a look at what's happening around the globe, not only are we seeing low interest rates, but we're seeing negative interest rates in the likes of Denmark and Switzerland, Europe, the ECB deposit rate in Japan. Not only that, I'd hate to be a pension fund manager at the moment. We're seeing massive balances by these pension funds, and it's very difficult to find income. Income is looking very expensive, whether you look at infrastructure, whether you look at the banks, and with negative interest rates in parts of the world, it's becoming very difficult to find income. So as long as we do see the very low interest rates and indeed rates continuing to fall here in Australia, I think you'd have to say that the yield trade will be well supported despite valuations, despite very little growth coming through. And that's really quite an crowded trade. Everyone seems to be on the same trade, but given the conditions around the globe and here domestically, you'd have to say that that one is one that's going to continue.
And where, Julia, do the regional banks fit into that income trade, particularly when compared against the big four banks? Of course, this all very much in light of Bendigo and Adelaide's result today.
I think when you have a look at the regionals, they do have a harder job than the big four. But with investing in a smaller business, you'd expect the company to be nimble and you'd expect it to show stronger earnings growth. With Bendigo and Adelaide, yes, we have seen very strong growth on the business side of the book. We've seen business growth coming in at a massive 19.7%. That's more than double system growth at 7.4%. But really, if we have a look at home loans, we've seen their customers paying off loans a lot more quickly. And housing growth has just been 3.2%. That's less than half of system growth at 7.1%, and deposit growth also very low, just 1.5% compared to system growth of 9.1%. Now, Bendigo and Adelaide, it doesn't have a huge exposure to that New South Wales residential market. They're still dealing with the Queensland drought and the cattle farmers there, but the rural finance acquisition has started to shine through for Bendigo and Adelaide. But they have had a fantastic run up, and unfortunately in this particular case we have seen a sell on the fact today.
Your